Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is May 10th, 2024. You're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live, and you are with us to celebrate our 200th episode. And today, I can say this. I don't get to say this very often. We have the whole crew with us, the whole Daily AI Show. We say the DOS crew internally. I don't know if we've got that to catch on with our listeners yet, but we call ourselves the DOS crew. So let me go and give everybody a quick shout out here. We have Junmi, Robert, Aaron, Beth, Carl, I'm Brian, and Andy bringing it home wearing a tuxedo and bow tie. If you were just listening to us, you definitely need to go check out the YouTube or Spotify video version of this, or LinkedIn, so you can see Andy rocking the bow tie, looking very, very sweet. He said he did it. Andy, you said you did it because you were, you didn't know if maybe an award was coming and you just wanted to be ready, which I think is solid.
We might have had, special, photo opportunities, where we stand in front of on a red carpet and in front of a backdrop that you've created. I didn't know what you had planned, Brian.
Yeah, knowing me, any of the above and all the above could have been possible. We have not to jump ahead past 200 because we want to celebrate 200, but our 1 year should be coming up. I believe it's August 7th is our 1 year anniversary, not our 365th episode, but our 1 year or whatever. And so maybe we'll have to do some fun backdrop stuff. That sounds like a good idea, Andy, and we can keep going. So welcome to everybody. It looks like we already got some comments. Let's see what we got here.
Welcome, Jen. Thanks for staying with us. You've been on a lot.
Yes, they're all here. I know, Jen. That is and then Jen champagne and fizzy water for all.
Fizzy water. I love it.
Yeah, Jen, listen, so here's the thing, right? Let's just sort of take a quick pull back to this because we have tons of new followers, tons who never heard our original shows back of last August. So I'll give you the quick overview of this. So we were all in a group called the AI Exchange. I literally wrote a post about this time last year. It was about May, maybe June. And I was like, hey, does anybody want to start a daily podcast? And I figured daily was going to cut out the vast majority of people who were like, I'm out. Thanks. No, thank you. But we did obviously have quite a few people who responded back. Everybody in this group was pretty much almost immediate. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it like every weekday because I just feel like there's so much to talk about AI. It changes so fast. I don't want to do a weekly podcast. I don't think that's going to get the job done. Who's interested? And the DOS crew that you see in front of you or you're hearing right now is that group. So we all worked on it. We did a week of pre-shows, which despite what you say, Jimmy, I don't think we should ever release those to the public. Not even if we hit 1 million subscribers.
Well, maybe supercut. It'll be fine.
It'll be something. But, we tried for a week and we tried round robin. Remember that? We tried to give everybody their own time, and that didn't work. We left that almost immediately, and we've sort of just refined it. So I'll stop talking, but I want to throw it out to anybody who wants to say something about kind of where we started and maybe where you thought we would be or where we are now as far as our 200th episode.
I'm gonna jump in, guys, because I'm number one. I'm the token foreigner here. We don't quite count Carl as a foreigner. He's too close to America, as they're not.
Canada counts.
Hey, if I can't,
once again, Canada's being excluded. Once again.
Hey, Canadians and Australians are brothers and sisters, so Carl's good on my list. But for me, this is it's been a big journey because this starts at 10 o'clock at night for me. And when you guys had daylight savings, it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was just like, I haven't been around much in the last few months because of it. It's been a real challenge, but it's been so much fun. And I look back at some of I pulled our stats before we started because I remember when it was just the 7 of us, and I don't think there was anyone watching. So as Brian said, we started 9 months ago. We currently have 713 subscribers, and that number is now growing, I think, at about 100 plus per month, which is awesome. I get the emails that come in from YouTube every time someone joins, and it's like ding, 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 which is cool. Yeah. 573 videos, of which obviously not all of them are the main show. We've got YouTube shorts, all that kind of stuff. And we're currently at 47,341 views. And that, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't think we would ever get there. I wasn't even sure we would last 3 months, but it's been a joy and a privilege and hard work. And don't let anybody tell you podcasting is an easy way to get famous and make lots of money, because it's bullshit. Other than that, Other than
wanna
that,
give
it's been a privilege being with all of you 6 guys and gals because you're all very different people. I've had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys have as well. So I'm looking forward to the next 200 shows.
Here, here.
You're here.
I want to give a quick shout out to Junmi. Plenty of shout outs to go around in this group, but I do want to give a quick shout out to Junmi because Aaron, you mentioned about the 500 plus episodes. That does not happen or exist without Junmi. He has been running and being not only our sort of project lead. You know, if anything needs to be organized and put together, and as Aaron said, I hope we make this sound easy, but it's not. There's a lot of background discussion, Slack discussions galore about all sorts of different topics of the shows, show ideas. Hey, what do you better think about this? What do you think about that? There's a ton going on in the back channels in order to make this come out and hopefully sound easy in just an hour or a half an hour, 40-minute conversation most days, Monday through Friday. But Junmi, you are the one that consistently puts out new content for us. We're looking for ways to increase that even more. And Junmi's answer to that is, my answer is yes, and also cautiously hopeful, because we're not trying to add more to Junmi's plate while we do it, but we definitely have ideas for putting out more content too. So well done, Junmi. This absolutely doesn't get to where it is without your
everybody
daily efforts to it, for sure. For sure.
Thanks,
you,
Brian.
Junmi.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no, you're right. It does take a lot of work, but like Aaron said, this is a fantastic group of people, and I really like all the varying points of view and being able to play off each other. And I think there's some really, really good energy, and that helps me always keep motivated for, let's try something new. Let's try something different. Let's throw the spaghetti against the wall and see if it sticks. And I really like that we have that adaptive attitude toward it, and we're always open to experimentation and things like that. And of course, we wouldn't be here without viewers like you. Especially Jen and Cindy. Thank you for joining us today. You've been fantastic, and it's always a delight to see your comments.
Now's a great time to put up our Venmo.
That's right. And you too can support this.
That was a joke. We're not. This is a free podcast. Nobody's going to be paying anything.
Yeah, we
Robert,
look.
stop talking. There will be an opportunity to sponsor us potentially.
Sponsor,
probably
sure.
won't.
But the
And we'll,
viewers.
like, hey, cash app us, no problem. That's
Don't
not gonna
clap, just throw money.
You know, it's funny because I talk about this show a lot, and I was just telling I talk a lot about my daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter who knows a ton
She's
about.
14 now. Wait, no.
Well,
Was she 12 at the beginning? She's probably
she was.
changed age.
Yeah. She turned 13 in November, but I probably was referring to her as about being a teenager or something like that. I kind of lump it together at this point. But I said, hey, you know, today's my 200th episode. I said, you know, we're climbing fast towards 1,000. 1,000 subscribers on particular YouTube. And so she leaned over and gave me a high five, which, listen, I'll take it. You know, that was a lot for her. So I was like laughing with her and stuff like that. And I said, look, I realize that comparatively, if you look at those numbers, they may not seem like much against, you know, some of your 40, 50, 60, 70, and of course your mega people on YouTube, whatever I said. But what I see is hockey stick growth. And I must use that term so much. And that's probably what I care about.
He's a Canadian. He understands.
You know what, Brian, though, like I remember when we first talked about this and like having run shows, I think when people look at, oh, we only have this many, if you actually look at any channel that reaches 1,000 subscribers or becomes a YouTube partner, that is the top 10% of all YouTube channels. I think people forget that because there's like thousands of channels out there that are under that. I think like when we first talked about, I remember when we, you know, YouTube wise and all that. And I said, you know, the hardest thing to get is actually the first 100 because, and it's, once you get that first 100, it's really a race to 1,000. And then now I think our goal, because of exponential growth, to 1,000, to 5,000, to 10,000. And the thing is, what's awesome is once you hit that 10,000, then you're like, then it just skyrockets even further. So that's the exciting part, is that's what we're all working towards.
Right.
And, you know, whatever it comes down to, whether we hit the 1,100,000, we get that silver playlist or whatever that becomes. I think like the whole point of this was it's something I think a lot of us look forward to. So it's not, even though there's a lot of work behind it, it's still fun to do. Like we get up and exciting to talk about. And I just want to point out, when we first started, do you remember where AI was and where AI is today? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think when we first started, we did like 3 shows on ChatGPT, right? Like, hey, what are you doing with ChatGPT? Hey, this is how I prompt in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
What's your favorite tool? ChatGPT, right?
I was watching the first episode before we came on, and I just noticed a couple of little things. Like we were talking about things like code interpreter, Wolfram Alpha, plugins. None of those terms we really use anymore because ChatGPT has changed and evolved in the last 9 months. And it's amazing to look back and just see little things like that have changed. But, AI-wise, who knows what it's going to be like in another year? It's going to be mind-blowingly different.
That was kind of the whole idea of the show, right? I mean, when I first thought about that, I was like, this moves so fast that I like this stuff. We like this stuff. We would all, I think I can say, I would speak for all of us and say, we would happily read about AI on our weekends on a beach somewhere, right? Like I like the subject. So it's easier for me. But I thought, oh my God, there's so many so many business professionals in general, just professionals, people in the working force, from just getting into the working force, maybe in your early 20s on up through the decades. And I just felt like I struggle to keep up with this, and I'm actively trying to keep up with this. What must this be like if you're just passively thinking of and hearing about AI news, and there's so much disinformation and misinformation or parts and pieces that don't make sense? And I was like, why don't we just get a group of people together and we'll all get smarter together, and our audience will come along with us. And, Andy, I'll give you a shout out. I want to give everybody shout outs, but Andy, you were one of the ones that you said, like, look, I mean, selfishly, my reason for doing this show is like, I want to learn with other people and have a reason to get more educated on a particular topic and be ready for a show. And I got to tell you, that is spot on, because there's days where I'm busy. There's days where I have my main job with Scaled and stuff like that. And I think, I got to put some time in, because the last thing I want to do is show up with this amazing group of people, whoever is there for that day, and not be prepared or not be able to do the conversation.
Half the time, that's why I don't show up, because I don't want to be the dumb one in the group that has nothing to contribute. But no, just kidding. And what's funny is I a lot of the YouTubers that I follow in the gaming side, like I do lots of following of YouTubers like Matt Wolf and whatnot on the AI side, but I'm also a gamer. And so those people, they started out as terrible gamers. Like they weren't any good. And so I think that, not that we're dumb or we're not any good, but we kind of are building this ship as we're sailing it, as I say often. And I think that that's kind of the appeal. We're not claiming to be experts. We're learning. We're saying the wrong things sometimes. And that, I think, is the appeal. And I think should be appeal to the common listener, is like, look, we're trying to figure this out just like you guys are. And we just know a little bit more, and we're trying to explore it. And a lot of the commenters, they correct us. I think that's the beauty of having an audience, a live audience. So I'm all about where we've come, because I think we're all smarter. 100%. We're all smarter than we were when we started. We kind of we're exploring it. But you know what? The people that didn't do this podcast, I guarantee they're not as smart. I guarantee it.
Good point. So there's 2 things I think that distinguish our podcast from others. One of them is the frequency, right? We're doing it every day. And there's some strong evidence that in order to learn and be a proficient and eventually attain mastery on any subject, and I'm going to use the example of playing guitar, the people who achieve that mastery are the ones who have the shortest distance between practice sessions, right? And so it's if you take the average gap between the time when you pick up a guitar and the next time you pick up a guitar, you measure that over time. And, if you drop it for a week, that's really painful on your averages. But the people who pick it up frequently, even multiple times a day, those people attain mastery in their art. and you arrive at your 10,000 hours, according to Maxwell Gladwell. I'm sorry, Malcolm Gladwell, not Maxwell. Malcolm Gladwell. You have to get to a certain number of hours in order to really consolidate your understanding of everything. So that's one of the virtues of you watching this show, is if you do it frequently enough, you will be informed better and arrive at a better comprehension of AI than you would if you didn't. The other thing that distinguishes this show is the number of players on it. And I want to point out that obviously provides a really broad perspective as we collectively bring our perspectives to you. And it also gives you this individual sort of expertise, as each of us has a certain angle that we come from. And so you can count on there being some interesting and diverse opinions that come out of this. And we have a thing that we haven't seen a lot of lately, but the pushback has been.
I was thinking of that.
So no, don't push back on me now.
That was Robert's claim to fame.
So the fact that we're all together, I don't want any of us to worry about the eventual compensation in either in kind, in the kind of knowledge that we collect, or the eventual money, because the only other example of a podcast I can think that has a pretty large group is the All In podcast. Mm-hmm. And those guys are all billionaires. So yeah.
Wait, you guys aren't billionaires? I thought I was in a room full of billionaires here.
No,
Robert, we're gonna have to talk after the episode then.
One last point is all of us, without exception, are working from home. Mm-hmm. And that's something that happened through the COVID transition. And, I've been involved through most of my career in not in that format, but rather in the office and with the opportunity to be with colleagues. And that's missing when you shift to working at home, except through the model of Zoom. And this has become a community for us and a friendship. So I have great respect, truly admiration for each of you. And I look forward to these meetings just because you are my crew. I don't have another set out there at this stage of my life and in my career. I interact with a lot of people in the day, but this is my home. Thank you.
And thank you, Andy. And for that, we all wanted to say, I'll speak for everybody, we do accept your invitation to Lake Tahoe this summer. We'll definitely come out. And it's really great that you're going to fly out Aaron all the way from Australia. That's great. We need a team exercise. I love it.
Open invite.
The horses. We'll get to meet the horses.
We can get Aaron there, no problem. But Carl, do the planes fly from Canada down to the U.S.? Or
no, I need to take a horse. That's what I need.
Google a horse there, and probably work there. So obviously. Yeah.
So
I did want to point out something that Andy said about the mastering the 10,000 hours thing. So when we hit 300 episodes, if you watch all 300 episodes, you will have a mastery in AI. That'll be easily 10,000 hours. Yep.
Is it 10,000 hours? If it's 30 minutes times 300, yeah. That actually is that correct?
We're not 30 minutes, let's be honest.
Well, that's what I'm saying. roughly. So, you'll definitely get more than 10,000. So, with padding there, you're good to go.
By the way, for our audience too, just, because this stuff, I don't know, maybe it's interesting to you to maybe know a little bit of, more behind the scenes stuff that we don't talk necessarily on camera, but the initial idea was in fact to do an hour-long show daily. I didn't know why. I just said an hour-long show. I mean, maybe that's just what I thought it was supposed to be based on other shows or whatever. And Andy, you were the one that came back and said, look, if I'm a busy business professional, I'll give you 30 minutes or thereabouts on a given day. I don't have an hour. And you were the one that was like, I think we can do more with less. And now the running joke is that we always strive for 30 minutes and we always go over a little bit, but that's okay with us. We don't want to cut off a good conversation, but at the same time, we always want our audience to be left wanting more. So there's that fine line of not letting it just die out, but also allowing the conversation to naturally go, because it really is more like a morning talk show than it is a well-oiled produced podcast. That's not really what we're going for, as you can tell. We're here to discuss AI. But I really appreciate you doing that, Andy, because I really think that's set in a really nice tone for the way we've approached this show. And had you not spoken up and said, I don't know about that hour, we would have done it. We would have done a nice hour-long show. It would have taken more time to produce and things like that. I'm just so happy that we landed on this format, because I think it is the right amount of time that somebody can have be in transit between their job and home if they are still commuting, or just an easy car ride somewhere to, like me, drop your daughter off at gymnastics or whatever. It's easy to listen to in a car and as you're moving around, and it's not going to be nothing wrong with them, but it's not a 3-hour, Lex Friedman podcast or a Joe Rogan or whatever. You don't have to try to commit that amount of time. You can get in and out, and you're going to learn something in 30 to 40 minutes. You're going to learn something, hopefully, if we're doing our job right, and you're going to walk away a little bit smarter about AI than you came in. And so are we, because we're learning along with you, as Robert said.
I think, like, when you say that, Brian, it's really neat, because there were so many episodes that for me, I just sat there and learned from Andy, from Aaron, from Beth, from Robert, from Junmi, from you, just different topics. And you sit back and you're like, this is amazing. I'm actually learning something here. And my contribution is just a perspective on it, but rather to sit back and just listen to a topic that I wouldn't have had personal interest in until somebody presents, and you're like, wait a minute, that's actually fantastic. I got to dig into that a little bit more. And obviously all of us can't learn everything about AI, but because we're so different and we have our own little niche or interests in addition to general interest of AI, that's what I love about this, is that there's always something new that you're always like, I love consuming all that from all of you and the different topics that we can cover, because if it was only 2-3 of us, I don't think it would be as diverse, and that
Absolutely.
to me is amazing.
Yeah,
It's funny,
no,
with regard to the
that's
timing,
guys-
it's odd because we actually spend more time communicating on Slack than we do actually on this 30-minute podcast. So it's, I mean, we're conversing, we're sharing, and I'm catching all the things that Carl is posting, the Twitter posts. You all don't see that in the in the podcast, in the Daily AI show, but there's a lot of communication going on behind the scenes, a lot of knowledge sharing. So we actually are benefiting from this more than you all are, possibly as viewers, because I see all the great knowledge sharing and kind of organization of thoughts and preparation of shows behind the scenes. That's truly inspiring. So sorry, Brian, go ahead.
So actually, I just want to jump in while we're talking about the shows and what they're about and how long they are. We would like to show that this graph shows that our 30-minute show has actually never averaged 30 minutes. So not only has our audience grown, but so has our show duration. And yes, April was the longest average duration for our shows. But they're just like what we found over the period of time is that we have a ton of stuff that is valuable to us. And so it's not that we're getting to the end of the show. We're always at the end of the show like, all right, nope, I can't say that because that's going to take us over 40.
I think there's 2 reasons for that, Beth, though. There's 2 very strong reasons. One of them is this, and one of them is this. I'm just saying there's some very obvious reasons.
I would like to push back against that. By the way, if you can't see that, if you were like, what is this and this? Robert put up "Here Comes a Firefighter Story" banner, which I take offense to. And I had this one time. I'll tell you about this time at the firehouse when
all right. Now we're going to our longest show. Our average show is 36 minutes and 19 seconds. Our longest show was 45 minutes, almost 46. Our shortest show was 26 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that's the show when Brian's system screwed up and he cut it off because he thought everybody had screwed up. We're like, ooh, whoops, sorry guys. And our median show is 35, almost 36. So like we're pretty good. When we go into the categories, the majority of things that we talk about are AI and technology and AI in business, but we have a nice distribution of future trends, AI in society, AI in creativity, and of course our news shows and our recap shows and the new interview series that we're doing. So, and tool reviews. So that is our daily AI show by the numbers, everybody. Thank
That's
you.
great, Beth. That is
Wait,
really
Beth,
Awesome.
did you use AI to classify the shows?
Oh, you know I did.
Okay, there we go.
I went in the back end to Gemini, and I did it a couple different ways, but I took screenshots of our shows because I didn't at that time have access to the back end data. And Google doesn't make it really easy. YouTube doesn't make it really easy for you to download a list of your shows. So I took screenshots and said, "Hey, Gemini, format this data, right? Make this screenshot a table of structured data, and then go in and look at all the titles and the descriptions and give us some categories."
And
Very
there's an AI lesson for you today from Beth.
That's very cool.
Use
And
case.
listen, that's a good call out too, Andy, and that's awesome, by the way, Beth. Thanks for doing that. I was gonna say, God, can you imagine how hard this show would be to do if we didn't have AI to help us do the show? Like if it was 4 years ago and we were trying to do this manually, I think Jimmy and I would have to take on like extra jobs and stuff in order to like try to figure it out and whatever. It would be nuts. And so I always am like super thankful because luckily, because we're an AI show, we're AI focused, we're always looking for that ability, and we all start with AI, which is something hopefully all of our listeners can take away with it, is like train your mind to start with, hold on, could AI help me do that faster? It won't always be the answer. The answer won't always be yes, but it's a great place to start. And if you can train your mind there, you will be like what we are when we do the show, which is like, well, okay, I got that answer. And then Jimmy will say, well, but could we, sure, ChatGPT is giving us the answer, but can we automate that? Can we put that into a system? Can we make that so that we don't have to touch it at all? Can we get it to a point where it's just hands-free? And that's all stuff that, like any business model, this is a business, right? It's just a different kind of one. It's a non-for-profit at the moment, but it's we use AI in the back end for all of this stuff to just find little efficiencies. We didn't start out by saying we want to automate everything. We just started out by saying, what are the parts and pieces of this sort of project, this business, that we can just take off the plate? And it's been a road. I'm gonna Jimmy, Beth, we work on this stuff a lot in the back end, and there are times where it just falls down and it doesn't do the job. StreamYard giving us the transcripts was a big deal because then we were immediately able to automate more of the process. And it's gotten easier. I mean, it's definitely easier to produce shows than it was when we started by far. And then allows us to free up our time because we're being more efficient to then say like, well, now that we don't have to spend all our time doing grunt work, what do we really want to do with this show? And so Beth and Jimmy have, a breakout show coming off, and that's under the umbrella. I haven't been consistent with it, but we're going to get our interviews back up. I have about 6 people who want to be interviewed right now. And so I just need to organize it and get that going. And then, shorts and faster responses to news items that are happening on a daily basis. We want to do that. None of that would be possible if we weren't able to free up our grunt work time by getting more automations in place. And Jimmy, Beth, Carl, you guys have all been really, really big as far as like helping get that going. And I learn on the back end as much because I'm learning for you guys on how to make a system work more efficiently. So it's super cool.
So this show would not have happened if Brian had not put that email out and had not been willing to be super consistent. So to a certain extent, we are here by the grace of Brian. We also want to give a shout out to Carl, who in one of the very first meetings cut off every conversation about like, we can't do this until we know what we're about. Or like, we'll evaluate at some point. Carl was like, nope. You're not going to know we're not going to know what we're about until we get a ton of shows. And I think you said 200. We might have some idea of who we are and what we're about if we get to 200. So let's just make that our mark. So we're going to have a meeting. Maybe Carl's going to give us another call to hit. Maybe he already did the 1,000 subscribers. Yeah. Just a shout out to Andy, who is someone that we all really respect, right? And it just feels like I don't know, like when there's nothing to say and no one knows anything, Andy knows something, right?
Yeah.
Like Andy is there. I'm the
He's
one
a
that you
grand
toss to
father of the show.
if you're like a Stretch, right? Like go ahead. I could talk about most things for 5 minutes. Brian as well.
Well,
we share that.
Robert and I are here. We will.
It's true.
You need somebody to stretch. You just need to call on Robert and I, and Robert and I are like, tag us in. I'm so ready. Tag us in.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Beth. I really appreciate that comment, but I want you to know that most of that is hallucination. I'm doing it for inference. I'm just generating something in the moment to fill the silence, and I'm not sure what I'm saying. But I'm going to put something out there.
Well,
But you
good
see-
on you, man.
You say it confidently, and we all go, "Wow, that is some deep shit." Andy really has this thing figured out. I know we've been giving love and spreading our love around. Thank you, Beth. But I also want to call out, as I'm looking at the top of the screen, number one, for such an amazing beard. Nobody grows a beard like Robert, and has the hair to go the other direction. He can barely stay in frame. He has to back up in order to get in there. But Robert, I will say from the get-go, you sort of invented the pushback and stuff like that. But man, do I love your ability to not take whatever anybody is saying and go like, I'll go along with that. And you just have a great spirit of like saying like, no, well, hold on. Carl, you do this a lot too, which is great. It's like, let's think about this from the other side, or I want to push back on that a little bit. And it's always done with love and kindness, but also it serves a really important part of this community that we're building, in this show that we're building, which is not to get accidentally caught in groupthink, which I'm sure we do sometimes. There's biases that are going to come into it. And I always feel like your perspective knocks us back out of that sometimes, where maybe the conversation's going one way and you're like, hold on a second, stop. Let's think about it from this side. And it always makes the show better. So I just wanted to give you props, man, because we have unique personalities, but this show would seriously be lacking if we didn't have your unique personality coming into it,
Thank you. And it's easy to do that when you're right and everybody else is wrong. So
Yeah, understood. Well, hey, listen, before we get too far into this, I know I was trying to think about how do we best celebrate 200, and I was going back and forth. I really couldn't come up with it. So luckily, though, I looked on my desk and Thumper was sitting there, and I thought, oh man, let's ask Thumper what we should do. So if you don't remember from a few shows back, this is my prototype that was sent to me by the company. It's called Thumper. It's an AI agent. It does a lot of amazing things, but I just wanted to give you, like, if I asked, hey Thumper, we're celebrating our 200th episode of the Daily AI Show podcast. How do you think we should celebrate? And let me just put that in there. Let's see what they says here.
Thump, thump, thump. Congrats on hitting the big 200. How about a special anniversary episode? You could feature highlights from previous shows, bring back popular guests for updates, and maybe even sneak in some listener Q&A. Throw in some AI-generated surprises, like a song or a poem about the show, to add that unique techie touch. Celebrate in style, and here's to many more episodes.
All right. Well, I think appreciate it. And in that idea, well, let's get a song going here. So here we go.
audio's on.
Here's a Udio. I think audio should be on for this.
But by the way, we go. I know this is like we're talking about Udio here, but has everyone seen what 11 Labs is doing? Because I think that was kind of neat too. That they're
I like that. Well, have you seen Studio? I mean, stable audio.
It's
I think that's pretty darn good too.
Well, let's listen to the song here real quick, and then we could definitely talk about that, because I still think Udio, they just had some major improvements. Not really the point of the show,
subscription feature,
but you can go up to 15 minutes now, and you can now go in and
in Paint. Yeah, in Paint.
Man, it's super cool stuff. So
get 200 more than just a myth. Talking bots and codes, we got that techie niche. Every day we drop knowledge, got that mental bliss. 200 shows and we can't resist. Hey. We wake up and catch what we want. 200 episodes is a milestone stunt. On your feet in the talk, bringing that crunch. With AI debate, we always pack a punch. We ain't shy, we just living it up. And our content's gold, no need for that fluff.
We don't need that fluff. We don't need that fluff.
Nice.
That's
very
awesome. Great job. Great job.
200.
Can you do an
Do
80s?
you
Jim
guys
Scott version?
realize the significance of what you just saw there? All fun aside, we now have software that writes songs like that. And generally, it's not bad. And that, I mean, a year ago, I wouldn't have believed that was going to happen. So
I agree
to
with
me,
that.
that's,
Really? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what Udia did, and I haven't played as much with like their in painting stuff like that, but you're right, Robert. Like that's where I felt like, oh, once I was sure they would do it. But what Udia will do sometimes, it'll like in there, it'll produce a 30-second clip and it'll start a chorus. And I was always like, oh man, I don't want it to pick up there. I want it to pick up a new chorus from here, or it misses the beat. And now the ability to go in and chop where I want to and say, no, end your clip here, so that when I say extend, it picks up on the beat where it's supposed to. I haven't played with it, nor do I need to make a 15-minute song. I'm not Taylor Swift. But I think it's going to be really, really cool. So I can't wait to go play with it. I'm with you, Aaron. Like I did not see this coming. I did not see something at this level coming. What's 11 Labs doing there real quick, Carl? Like what new thing did they just say?
Exactly what you just did in UDO.
Really?
And yeah, they're great. Like it's not available to the public, but they showed a sample track. And I believe that Udio, I think you can actually edit pieces of it now. Like you can edit or regenerate certain sections.
Yeah, that's
or
in painting. Yeah.
It's not going to be. I have a feeling in 3-6 months, less than it isn't just about regeneration. It's going to be like, oh, I want to add a guitar track in there. I want to add this into this. Like the ability to do what people do in the studio, like an actual music studio.
Right.
I feel like that's going to be built into any of these things, and
Yes.
the music that's going to be coming out combined with artists that are going to be using it. Like who is the country music star that lost his voice but now could?
Randy Travis.
Yes. So that's it. That is, to me, that is still
Or Tupac, he's no longer dead, which is pretty amazing. So
Technically, he didn't put that out.
Drake was able to use his voice without.
You mean, I thought Tupac was never dead.
I didn't know you were dead.
That's right, Andy.
Either is big. I will say one thing regarding
I do hope that 11 Labs will get to the point where they can clone an Australian accent. That's my
Yeah. we can't have a new banner for this. We have one for Canadians. Now we got a banner for ranting Australians. Like, oh, they can't do our accent. Our accent's too hard. We got to make a banner for that. But on the tech side, so I'm a photographer, and I used recently Adobe Creative Cloud had integrated some of the AI tools into Lightroom. And so this whole audio thing in painting, I had a photography session I did. It was low light. It was really terrible, highly pixelated, 25,000 ISO. If anybody knows what that is, it's really bad. And it's pixelated. I'm like, but I want to make it look good. There's a little button that says denoise with AI inside of Lightroom. I clicked on it. It's like, holy crap. And I zoomed in, and the girl's face, which was far away, perfect. No more noise. Like, you got to be frigging kidding me. So that kind of stuff inside of a workflow that I am as a photographer on the side is just like the audio people, like you just said, Carl. They're in the studio. They already have, the Pro Tools software, and they're already doing, sequencing of different instruments. They just click a button, add a guitar lick here. It's going to happen. Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah. The big thing about that Adobe you're talking about, Robert, it's going to be applied across the board. They talked about it in Premiere for just upscaling video. So we will get zoom in and enhance.
Oh, Topaz AI that is already there. That they literally run it, and the impact of that to me to the cameras, like, do you need an 8K camera when I can take like a really crappy iPhone and then upscale it in Topaz, which is like, what does that mean for anything? I don't like the impact of that on the creative industry, on filmmaking is
the size of files on everything, right? Yeah. All right, we're getting too far.
Like Beth, I'm curious to hear your feedback on this. We're talking about how AI is being able to create sort of these near instant results, a song, a creative song, images, obviously Sora coming soon with video, and I don't know how instant that'll be, but I'm just curious to get your perspective because, you know, one of the things you do that I think is amazing and you bring it to us is like you do improv. And I would think that this is going to open up for certain, I don't know what you call them, comedy clubs or whatever they do, improv clubs, I guess, that do this. It's going to open up a whole new way of people interacting with audiences, because right now it's like, give us a couple ideas and we will create a scene for you.
His
I'm sure I'm
point
over
is
some.
just lost. You get frozen.
What's that?
Nope, you're frozen, Robert.
I was frozen. You were frozen. Never mind.
But anyway, you see what I'm saying, Beth, like using music and immediately creating music or a video to go along with your improv, I think just kind of makes that whole experience. It could be amazing for the right types of people, right?
Right. So there is an improv format or game that I know of as improv karaoke or PowerPoint karaoke, where the deck is set before and then someone gives a talk about an audience suggested subject and everyone's seeing the slides at the same time. Somebody has actually made that deck and they're really random slides and they have graphs that don't mean anything. And it's hilarious. Yes. So what happens when the slides are literally being created and submitted by the audience? That then just gets generated because those are because that would be a ton of fun. Great idea.
Yeah. Somebody will put all that together and they'll figure out how to get somebody, you know, sitting just off stage who is just rapid fire creating on the fly as things are coming from the audience. And, you know, like whose line is it anyway when they wouldn't know what was behind them on the screen and they were having to interact. And of course the audience is in on the joke and they're running from alligators because it's on the green screen behind them. I think like things like that. And I think, oh God, there's like, for people like you, Beth, you're just so talented in that area and you're so good at the yes ands and the improvs and stuff like that. Like, this is all going to merge together and you're going to like be using AI in improv clubs. We're not even going to like blink. It's just going to be normal for that to be a way that you might go consume, you know, Thursday night comedy or something like that.
Yes. And I will say improv is never normal, but thank you.
Fair point. All right. Well, listen, have we hit our mark? We're at 42. So are we on average? Are we good?
45.
No. I don't want this show to be the one that we talk about. We should make potent content. On that note,
you want to wrap it up? Anybody else?
I do want to. I'll wrap it up on and to what you said about what I was talking about earlier about like, you know, waiting for 200. I think for all of us, I think the message here is the consistency of how we do it and just keeping consistent because now compounded growth, really the sky's the limit for us because we are going to hit the 1,000. I feel if we do another 300 episodes or 200 episodes, it isn't 1,000 now. I think it's reasonable that we'll hit the 5,000 or more. And then 200 after that, I think we can get into the 20, 30,000. So yeah, to me, that is just keep consistent and AI is not going to change. So I think we have a really big opportunity in front of us.
Yeah, well, we won't run out of time.
We won't quote you on AI's not going to change.
The fact that AI is always changing isn't going to change.
It's going to be consistent. It's going to change constantly.
What's the line? The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? I don't know. I remember from old Dave Matthews days. I'll leave it on that. But all right. Well, listen, that's 200. It's in the can. We're done. And we will be back. Obviously, we're not slowing down. We're not stopping. We will be back on Monday through Friday next week and thereabouts. We're all new AI topics. So keep on coming back. We have tons to talk about. We don't know what OpenAI is doing with search engines. And so that might be a topic for next week. We'll, whatever it is, it'll be fun. It'll be entertaining. We'll all learn together. Thank you, everybody, for celebrating with us. And in the comments, thank you to all our listeners, our new listeners, our folks that have been with us since day one. We appreciate every single one of you. And onwards and upwards. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Aloha.